Zambo family, welcome to the 54 corresponding show right here on the Black Power Network. I trust that everyone is doing fantastic on yet another wonderful Tuesday, being the 25th of August, the year 2020. And today we are looking forward to having an interesting show right here on the 54 correspondence, where we get to give you an update on what is happening all over the African continent. We shall be giving you an update on what is happening in the West African state of Malawi. We also do have some other interesting updates also coming from West Africa's nation of Ivory Coast, as well as other different African nations. My name is Pite, and of course, you can get interactive with us on our different social media platforms. We are on Instagram, Black Fire Network. We are also on Facebook, Black Fire Network Radio Station, and we are also on Twitter, Black Fire. And of course, like I said earlier, I trust that everyone is doing fantastic. I took you to South Africa with some wonderful music. That was some music by Sheila Moore, and it's called Kilinosi. And of course, it also includes a DJ on that particular set. And there was also the song before it. And the name of the song was also, let me get the name of the song. There was a song before it. And of course, that was also a South African song as well. But nonetheless, we trust that you are doing well. And remember, you can visit our website, our official website, which is www.blackfirenetwork.com. And on the website, you can be able to create your own personal profile. And once you have a profile on the website, you shall be able to access some of the network resources, such as being able to join the community chat on the Black Fire Network website. And remember, you can also head over to the Google Play Store and look for the Black Fire Network Radio app. Black Fire Network Radio app. And that is an app that shall enable you to be able to listen to the music on the go. I know that duty calls, and you have to hit the plantation, and you have to be busy during your day. But nonetheless, even over your lunch break or even over your break, you can still be able to listen to some of the music that we play you right here on the Black Fire Network. And of course, Keeping it South African, we do have some proverbs coming all the way from the South African nation of Botswana, and I want to share with us a few proverbs from Botswana. These are words of wisdom from Botswana, and of course, one have three of them. I have three of the proverbs from Botswana, and some of the most popular proverbs is what is seen by all. What is seen by all. That is a popular proverb in from Botswana, a South African nation of Botswana. And of course, there is also another proverb that says, "Eyes can see widely; they can cross a river in full flood." And that is also another one about vision. I think most of the proverbs about from Botswana are all about vision, because the other one I read is, "What is seen by all," and the one that I'm sharing with you right now is, "Eyes can see widely; they can cross a river in full flood." And now, of course, there is one last one. It says, "He who offends forgets. He who offends forgets, but he who suffered from the offense does not." You know, you might offend someone and you might forget it, but whomever you happen to offend will not forget. And therefore, this is actually a very a good proverb, because I also do happen to agree with it. If you offend someone, you might forget eventually, but whomever you offended might not actually forgive, or might not actually forget your offense that you actually did. Maybe you might have stepped on their toes, or maybe you might have done wrong to them, and maybe over the years you might forget what you did to them. But what you happen to realize that for them, they will not just forget or take it lightly. And of course, those are some of words of wisdom coming all the way from Botswana. We happened to talk about Botswana some a couple of weeks ago, and we were saying about the Botswana leadership. You know, Botswana happened to be one of the poorest, the second poorest country in the world at some point. It was the second poorest country in the world, but right now they are making strides. They are not suffering as they were a couple of some years back. They have made some strides, and they are now rising to become an economic powerhouse in Southern Africa. But of course, a lot of progress has to be made. You know, some milestones have to be reached. And I see Keith. Thank you for joining us. You saying good morning, folks. Good morning to you too. Seems like a kid is up early. And of course, some of the time we do know that there is a time difference, and that is why we still do appreciate the family joining us right here on the Black Oak Network. Kid, we appreciate you giving us this platform, the Black Oak Network, to share our minds and our thoughts with the rest of the world. And I just get to, share the information as it is. So I shared with you a song, and of course, the name of the song was Kilinosi. It's all the way from Botswana. And of course, if you have never been to Botswana, most of us probably have never been to Botswana. Myself, I would love to go to Botswana. And of course, I would love to see what's good in that particular country. And the capital city is known as Gaborone. Gaborone. Gaborone is the capital city of Botswana. And of course, if you ever want to see Southern Africa, you wouldn't really have seen Southern Africa without visiting Botswana, Namibia, as well as Swaziland and South Africa itself. We also do have on the side Mozambique, as well as Zimbabwe, but I believe that the southern kingdoms, where we used to have the kingdom of Shaka Zulu, perhaps this might have encompassed areas such as Botswana, as well as areas such as Swaziland and the wider part of the Zulu kingdom in that particular area, which was very vast, And people would move from Botswana, go into Swaziland, go into South Africa itself, go into Zimbabwe itself. And right now, as you're speaking, we do have a divide, and this is because of tribalism. When the white man came, when the European came, they came and tried to divide people along different kinds of lines. These are tribal lines. And of course, people have been duped into believing that they are different people, while as you would have people move from Botswana, who are the Shona people. We do have a wonderful sister on the network. Her name is Rumbi. Rumbi speaks fluent Shona, but we do still have many people in South Africa who do speak Shona, and that tells you that these are the same people. Whether you are in Botswana speaking Shona, whether you are in Zimbabwe speaking Shona, whether you are in South Africa speaking Shona, these are still the same people. And I played you a little bit of their music, a song by a lady called Sheila Moore. Sheila Moore is a wonderful artist from Botswana. We hope to have her on the show sometimes if we get the opportunity. And we also do have Asanda Bam. Asanda Bam is also another South African artist. I have tried to reach Asanda Bam. I'm hoping that maybe sometimes we can have her on the show so that she can get to tell us a little bit about her music and I know her journey. She recently dropped an album, and maybe sometimes we shall be having her on the show, just getting to tell us a little bit about her music. But nonetheless, I talked about Botswana Gaborone, and some people might think that Botswana is all messed up. Like you said, it was at some point the second poorest country in the world, but they have been making progress. You know, they do have mineral resources, and I want to share with us some of the images. I want to share with us some of the images of Botswana. And this is the capital city, Gaborone, and you can see the kind of infrastructure that they have put together. We all do know that the southern part of Africa, there is the white minority that have also refused to, the bucket. You know, for example, the Dutch in South Africa, they came up and put up a language. What is the name of the Dutch language in South Africa? I think it's Afrikaans. Yeah, they do have the Afrikaans language, which is a mixture of Dutch and Bantu language, but they also have claims the ownership of the land, and the government of Southern Africa have not really addressed the issue of land injustices that have been, that most of the land have been taken away from the African people by the Caucasian in South Africa and the larger part of Southern Africa, countries such as Namibia, countries such as Botswana, and also a little bit of Swaziland. Swaziland is not, we do not have a lot of crackers in Swaziland, but yeah, they are. But what I was saying is that there have been a lot of people that have invested, and of course, some of these are Dutch people. But then again, there is the issue of land injustice in South Africa and the inequality in this particular place. You find that Botswana is endowed with a lot of mineral resources, but when you look at the mining industry and its contribution to the economy, the benefits or the people do not reap the benefits of such contribution. The people on the ground or the people of Botswana do not reap the benefits of these particular kind of minerals being mined from their own country. And of course, if you also look at the mineral map in in Botswana, the Southern African nation of Botswana, you find that they do have the abundance of diamonds. They also do have the abundance of silver, and they also do have the abundance of copper, nickel, and also coal, soda ash, as well as potash and iron ore. And of course, most of the earnings are coming from the diamond mining. You know, in Africa, we do have Africa is a rich. You know, people talk about Africa, people living in poverty, people starving, people living in people having malnutrition and other kinds of conditions. But you realize, for example, in Botswana, 70 to 80% of its export earnings are actually attributed to diamond mining. Of course, the mining sector plays a very, very big role in terms of the foreign exchange earnings coming into this country. But then again, like I said, the people on the ground or the Botswana people do not really feel the impact or the benefits coming from the mining industry. We also do have another country which is Sierra Leone. We have heard about the blood diamonds in Sierra Leone. The country having an expansive reserve of a natural reserve of diamonds, Sierra Leone, but you hear people getting killed and people not even enjoying the benefits of these particular kinds of resources that they do have in their own country. Bombi Dampa, thank you so much for saying your spikes Wagwan. Wagwan to YouTube. I think that is how you say it, Wagwan to YouTube. Bombi Dampa, I invited you to join us on the show sometimes just to talk it up about Ethiopia and Gambia, the experiences, just through a parallel. But you never showed up. But anyhow, I trust that you are doing well. The invitation is still open. You are much welcome to join us maybe before the end of the show, perhaps on Thursday or Friday. We would love you to slot in and have you tell us a little bit about your experiences in both the Gambia as well as in Ethiopia. That is the invitation from this end of the network. Nonetheless, this is the 54 corresponding show on the Black Fire Network, and my name is Spikes. Remember, you can get interactive with me. If you would love to shoot me an email, feel free to do so. Just write to me, spikes at blackhotfirenetwork.com. Spikes at blackhotfirenetwork.com. And you can be able to send in through your suggestions, your comments, your queries, among other different things that you would love just to have a conversation about. And remember, you can get also interactive with the rest of the family just by heading over to the website. If you haven't created a profile on the website, feel welcome to do so. It's www.blackhotfirenetwork.com, and you can be able to actually find us right there on the network. Now, of course, I promised you earlier that we shall be discussing about West Africa today. We do have some issues happening in West Africa before we get into the topic of the day. Many people have talked about 5G and their fears and their reservations about 5G. But before we get into that, I want to take us all the way to West Africa. And our focus for today will be two West African nations. One of the nation is Mali. Mali. Many people might know Mali because of the famous Timbuktu. Many people might know Mali because of the famous Timbuktu. And of course, people that have studied African history also know about the Songhai Empire. The Songhai Empire also encompassed the larger part of West Africa, and we also did have other different empires coming up, other different kingdoms in this particular area. But our focus for today is in Mali, and there is a power struggle. There is a power struggle in Mali because the incoming government, people outside, there has been many attacks, especially ethnic attacks. The Fulani group been attacked by this other group, the Dogon also been attacked by this other group, and other different kinds of attacks in this particular area. And also to add salt to the injury, there is also the attacks from the Islamic militants, the jihadists. And now what you realize is that the jihadists have been on a mission to try and convert the West African nation into an Islamic state. Already, you realize that many people in West Africa are predominantly Muslim. In most of the parts that you go to visit in West Africa, most of the areas are actually predominantly Muslim. And of course, if you ask yourself, I think the Islamic campaign was big. The Islamic crusade was big, and that is why we do have a lot of some of the kingdoms, some of the rulers of the kingdoms, having been converted into Islam so many years ago. And of course, even still today, we did have many people deserting their own African spiritual systems, and ascribing to the Islamic religion. For example, most of us have heard about Mansa Musa. And Mansa Musa, of course, also did to take a pilgrimage. He did take the tour to go to Saudi Arabia. And most of us have heard about the richest man on the African continent and the history of the richest man on the African continent. His name was Mansa Musa. But Mansa Musa had also been converted to his religion, and therefore he took a tour. He took a pilgrimage from Mali, and went from Mali towards Egypt, and then from Kemet he also went into Saudi Arabia. At some point I had a conversation with my cousin, and we were talking with my cousin about the kind of a trip that maybe Mansa Musa would have taken. And at some point, my cousin was telling me maybe because it said that Mansa Musa had a big entourage with him. He had a big entourage. He had people to carry. He had people to carry good with him. I think he had thousands of people to go with him from Mali to go to Saudi Arabia. And what my thinking was is that these people might have also consumed a lot of resources. You do not just take your entourage from Mali to Saudi Arabia without the resources required. You have to use a lot of resources. And one of the worries of my cousin was actually saying that maybe Mansa Musa might have needed a lot of sheep. That is what my cousin actually said in the first place. That Mansa Musa might have needed a lot of sheep to get the people across from Egypt to Saudi Arabia. But then I told my cousin when he did have that particular kind of that particular time, we did not have the Suez Canal because the Suez Canal was just done the other day, and therefore they would not need to have any ships for them to cross from Egypt to Saudi Arabia. They talk about Saudi Arabia being in the Middle East, and I've had kids asking every time what they are calling it Middle East, east of what? That is what kids have always been asking. They call it Middle East, and a kid is always asking east of what? Because that is a fallacy. That is just another part of Africa, which they have taken and are now labeled differently, just to have it as Middle East. But nonetheless, I was saying that the Islamic militants in Mali have actually caused a lot of damage, and Bombi Dampa says those two eggs in Mali are a parasite. In Mali, we do have a lot of challenges because even the leadership itself has not been able to come or has not been able to address the issue of the fighting by the Islamic militants that have, led to a lot of people moving from their own country and other people being internally displaced in Mali. For example, there is a small town in central Mali. There is a small town in central Mali, which is known as Mopti. In Mopti, we have had different shows right here on the 54 correspondents. We have reported so many times of Mopti getting attacked, the villages getting burnt down, the houses getting burnt down. And this is in central Mali. This is an area where the government perhaps would be able to address the issue as it is. Let me just show us an image. Let me just show us a map of Mopti so you can be able to see what I'm talking about. Mopti is not close to the central, the capital city. Let me just show us. Let me just show us the image of the place that I'm talking about. If you look at how Mali is divided, you get to realize that even if you are in central Mali, that does not necessarily guarantee that you are accessible or that you are easily accessible in Mali. Simply because you realize, let me just use a more clear map. This is the map of Mali. As you can see, this is a map of Mali. And the capital city of Mali, of course, is Bamako. I think one of the countries that have the most confused maps on the African continent is Mali. You cannot really tell how the map, you cannot describe this kind of the area. You cannot call it a circle. It's neither a square. It's neither the shape of the shape of the country of Mali is really sort of a bit confusing. But nonetheless, if you look at this particular area in central Mali, it's called Mopti. In the middle here, it's called Mopti. There have been so many attacks that have been conducted by different ethnic groups. One group attacking another different group, and villagers getting killed. About 60 villagers getting killed in one weekend, or maybe 20 in the next weekend. And many people have tried to move from this area because the government has not been able to come and rescue or I'll come and address the issue of insecurity in this particular area. And you find some people even moving from, Mali going into Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is not any better itself because we also do have the fighting in Burkina Faso. But Mali also borders Algeria and also borders Mauritania and also borders Senegal on this side. But in this area, this is where we do have the hot, this is where we do have the red in this particular map. And of course, you go all the way from this area and go west all the way to Bamako. This is where we do have the administrative center over the nation in Bamako. And you find these particular people being left out to be murdered, by Islamic militants, by different community clashes and other things like that. So you do find the government right now has been under attack, or not really attack, but they have been under. The people are tired right now. The people are actually tired with the government of Mali, and of course there have been talks between West African militaries and Mali military coup leaders. There have been different leaders who have wanted to change over the government or conduct a coup and take over the government of Mali. And of course, there have been discussions which have been involving the ECOWAS, the leaders of the ECOWAS, which is the economic community of West African states, the economic community of West African states. They have tried to come and negotiate a bargain between the opposition in Mali and the incumbent leadership. The incumbent leadership decided to really put forward a new suggestion for the seats of the cabinet, but that has not really worked for them. Kid, you're saying that the richest man who ever lived, not just in Africa, but he also got converted. I think his brother also left and went on a voyage because he actually got the leadership of the empire from his older brother, and the older brother actually left on a voyage, and he went to explore the world from the empire. But nonetheless, I was talking about the crisis in Mali right now. I would not fancy being I don't know how they call the citizens of Mali. I don't know if they call them Malians. I'm presuming they might call them Malians or Malis. I have no idea what they call them. I also do not have an idea what they call the people of Madagascar, whether they call them Madagascans, but I know they call the people of Kenya Kenyans. Anyhow, I was saying that in West Africa there have been a mediation of there have been talks of mediating between the government and of course the opposition. The opposition have been calling for the resigning of the president, but the president does not want to resign at any cost. The president wants to keep on, running this particular country. But the people are tired. First and foremost, one of the biggest issues that is the problem, there is grievances. One of the biggest issues with this particular country is insecurity. People getting murdered right, left, and center. Different attacks. You get different attacks happening every now and then. And of course, the government led by Ibrahim Boubacar Keita, who is the president, is a reactive government. They are not proactive in terms of addressing matters of security in this country. They are really reactive people. They most of the time you find that they will go to Mopti because Mopti is where the hot, the what do you call it, the place where there's a lot of danger. You find them going to Mopti in the morning, once while people have been murdered in the night. The attacks normally start around 2 a.m. or even 1 a.m. People come with bikes and they have covered their masks and they come with some guns and other with other different weapons and slaughter people. But then the government comes, the forces for the government come in the morning at around 8 a.m. When the damage is already done, and now people are tired, and the government is facing the opposition. The opposition wants the people the government to be dissolved and for them to have a new government. And there is nothing that has been decided yet. And of course, everyone has been putting forward their different kinds of propositions. Like I said, in West Africa, we do have one of the biggest trading blocks, which is called ECOWAS, which means the economic community of West African states. There had been a proposition of using 2 billion by the ECOWAS, using 2 billion to combat the force of the Islamic militants. And of course, this 2 billion is not enough. We do find that even in this area, most West African states were former French colonies. Yeah? Most West African states were former French colonies, apart from maybe Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea was actually a Spanish colony. And you actually get to realize that Spain had only one colony on the continent of Africa, which is Equatorial Guinea. And I don't know how that might have played out for them because Spain had other different colonies in South America, and that is how they did not get any kind of they were not given any there wasn't given any kind of a colony right here on the African continent apart from Equatorial Guinea. And the people of Equatorial Guinea, you'll find them speaking Spanish. I have never been to Equatorial Guinea myself, but I imagine that there are also people who are confused who call themselves Spanish. I might think that there might still be some people confused in Equatorial Guinea who might call themselves Spanish. But nonetheless, we are hoping that a resolution will be found for West African states. I am hoping that a resolution will be found for West African states. Right now, on the African continent, we have had a problem with leadership crisis. That is one of the biggest problems. Apart from corruption, we also do have the crisis of leadership on the African continent. And yesterday on the Africa Today show, I was trying to share with us a video. I wasn't able to share the whole video, but they had a lady, of course, who was on the panel, and she had some very, very important points regarding her view on the African leadership and, of course, the involvement or the engagement of young people in leadership. And unfortunately, that does not happen. We do not have the youth being involved in leadership on the African continent because most of the time the older have already amassed the wealth and they use the wealth to buy out the votes when it comes to the elections in the African continent. But nonetheless, before I share with you this particular video, I have also a song from Timbuktu, and this is Mali. This is a song by Caspar Nyovest. It goes by the name Timbuktu. And when you get back, I shall be taking you all the way to Nigeria which is the African powerhouse when it comes to economic powerhouse, as well as leadership, a leader in trends, even not just economic wise, but even other trends, cultural wise, and other things. We shall be talking a little bit about Nigeria and leadership in Nigeria, and then we shall also get back to the issue of the 5G network right here on the African continent. I never stop, never let you go. Yes, I know, well, I know we are away, but I know that I'm going away with you. But the days are always stuck away, so sure. We can take our yeah. But I know that I'm going away with you. These are always not for so sure. We can take positive. We can take positive. Man, I'm big men now, student men in our beats. We had to put these gangs down and put the pen on our hips. I got your babes and your maiden, I've been sending me pics. Guess I'm just a legend like Chris, you know I have to get the stage laid just in case my melanin drips, you know. Black gold all over my denims and shit. I guess I'm ready to dip, feeling very legit. But Timbuktu, that's a hell of a trip. Alright, swear on your mom's life that you really love me. I'll fly out now and drop everything to leave with you. This doesn't come twice, all we got is one life. I was on the fence, you was doing what you needed to, and then they hit you with the beetle juice, super juice. Scary how the muscle brothers treat you. So meet me at terminal 5, all the brothers aside, give you a permanent life. I get your ass on the stage. But I know that I'm going away with you. But the days are always not going so sure. We can take positive. But I know we are away. But I know that I'm going away with you. But the days are always not going so sure. We can take positive. We can welcome back to the 54 Correspondent Show right here on the Black Power Network. We trust that you are doing well, and of course, we do love and appreciate you taking your time to join us right here, and of course, taking on us. We never take your company for granted, and of course, we know that everyone is busy trying to get their bread, and of course, going about their business, maybe your daily routine. Maybe you might be at the gym this morning, maybe you might be doing your morning workout, or maybe you might be doing something else. But of course, you have taken your minute to join us and are taking on us right here on the Black Power Network. My name is Spikes, and of course, this is a Black Power Network 54 Corresponding Show. We bring you news and updates from all across the African continent, and of course, our goal is to shape a different view of the African continent because many people have been told that Africa is a place of disease. You know, Africa is a place where people are impoverished and dying in poverty. Africa is a place of ignorance. Africa people are living in a jungle in Congo. well, maybe Africa people are doing this and that, but that is totally incorrect. And of course, in most cases, when you hear about when you hear about Africa, your view might be confused. There are some people who have not even stepped beyond their corner store, but they do have an opinion about Africa, and they do have an opinion about people living in the seas. People living in poverty, hunger. You'll find everyone with a big tummy because they are maltreated. And of course, there are all other different kinds of images that have been painted about Africa. People will also tell you that in Africa you cannot be able to communicate with anyone because of the language barrier, that people are talking in, dialect that you might not be able even to understand. But here we are on the Black with Fire Network, and our goal is to really shape, of course, a different opinion or a view of the African continent based on facts, not just based on Hollywood impressions of Africa. And of course, we thank you so much for being part of this particular show. And I'm moving on. I said that we do have some video share with you from Nigeria. There was a recent forum, and there was a lady. I tried shared during this yesterday, but I didn't finish the whole video. I want to finish up on the video and then go on the issue of the 5G network on the African continent. What are some of the reservations and what people need to know about these 5G network? Right now, as we're speaking, there is a trade war between China and the USA. And with this trade war between China and the USA, African nations are torn between. They do not really know whether to follow the advice of the USA, because the USA has given advice against, the companies such as Huawei. They have to that Huawei is a company that cannot be trusted when it comes to the implementation or the installation of the 5G network. And therefore, the African continent, of course, is allied. The African continent, the African nations want to be allied to the USA, and they also want to be allied to the Chinese. And then the Chinese are coming in, of course, with the Huawei company and the 5G. And the African nations are now confused. There is a lot of confusion, mostly because of their allegiance. And of course, even the allegiance, most of the time you find African leaders not looking after the interest of the Africans. They want to look after the interest of, making these nations happy. Or they want to look after the diplomatic relations more than even they are looking after the interest of the health of the people or the interest of the future, the generations of their own nations. But nonetheless, before we get into that, I want to share with us this particular video. And like I said earlier, this was from a lady who is, of course, on a panel, and she had some few points to share on African leadership. And I found some of these points to be true. And this is what is happening on the African continent in regards to leadership. And the crisis of we do have from the transferring of leadership from the old people to the young people who can be able to shape the future of the African continent in terms of the economy, economic development, social development, political development, and development in other spheres, even such as innovation and technology.
People are at the majority of the voting age in our country. Why can't young people organize themselves and throw out 70-year-olds?
The question is not whether you can throw out the 70-year-old. The question is that in a situation where the same mind clamors for bread and books, bread will always win. And the political elite of this country have mastered the art because they know that 500 naira and 1,000 naira will make people sell their votes at the polling booths. And so it is not that we young people don't want to organize to take over from you, but it is that your generation has the money to keep our generation aground. And your generation has deliberately, sir, except for very few progressives like you, refused to give us the kind of education that will empower us to demand mandatory accountability from your generation. The kind of education that will help us to become innovative and drive competitiveness for Nigeria's economy. When you say that banks are giving loans to small businesses in Nigeria, the banks come with double-digit loans that are unaffordable for those small businesses. When you talk about youth and unemployment, the idea is not even youth unemployment. The idea is that youth unemployability is a greater challenge above youth unemployment. When you do not empower our generation to speak English so that we can get the right kind of jobs that will help us stand side by Singapore, Finland, and Canada, you deprive us of our fundamental demand.
I agree with you, don't worry.
And I'm sorry, Professor Batitomi, I do not mean to be combative or to be activist. This is a platform for reasonable conversation.
Absolutely.
But I believe that young people like me get the opportunity to speak truth to power only once in a while. And I stand here for an entire generation. I cannot curry for the old people. The policy makers, the captains of industry, the people who make decisions in private companies to sponsor reality shows and refuse to sponsor youth empowerment programs, they sit in this room. And it is therefore important that I put the voice of my generation on the agenda, because I know you people are.
That's why I started with you. Give me a break. I started with you because I know that.
Based on logistics, there are two categories of young people in Nigeria today. The first category, the educated, empowered, and privileged. The second category, the poor, the deprived, and angry young people, who form the majority of the youth population you refer to, and are the ones that have become the tools of trade in the hands of the politicians. So we, the young people who are educated and can make the type of decisions and understand where Nigeria needs to go, are in our minority. The ones in the villages and the bushes who don't have education, who are poor and angry, who become area boys, do not even have food to eat 3 times one day. Now, where do we go from here? How do we promote inclusiveness? Nigeria and Africa have to become entities that embrace consequences. What do I mean by that? Consequences, when we begin to punish bad behavior in Nigeria, when people steal our money and we put them in jail, Nigeria and Africa will become better countries. I'll tell you why, sir. In Singapore, under Lee Kuan Yew, a minister bargained with a contractor and took money and took bribe from him to give him a contract. When Lee Kuan Yew found out, the minister committed suicide and left a note behind that he would rather die than face the consequences Lee Kuan Yew will place there. In Nigeria, when people steal our money, we give them cheap fancy titles. When they steal our money, we give them doctorate degrees. Somebody said that
when they steal the money in Nigeria, actually what happens is that when they go to an inquiry committee, they faint, even before the actual inquiry has been made. And that is what the lady right here is speaking against, people being given even doctorates and honorable positions once they steal the money from through corruption from the African people.
the reason why rich people in Nigeria don't fund research is because there's no substance at the base of their wealth. So when we do not place consequences side by side our actions, we do not send a strong message to the people who have stolen. How do we promote inclusiveness? Number one, we need to be able to embrace the principles of equality, where the children of the rich and the children of the poor can go to public schools because public servants elevate the quality of education in the public. Number two, where the children of the poor can get jobs without having connections. When they go to University of Lagos and go to University of Ibadan, and they are giving the same kind of jobs that people like me who went to Harvard University Kennedy School can get, that is when we become an equal country. A country where the children of the rich go to school abroad and come back to lead the corporations is not a country. We're just simply cohabiting. Why do I say that? As things currently stand, one day, during the Occupy Nigeria protest in 2012, the area boys didn't protest to Oshodi. They didn't go to Agege. They didn't go to Yanopaja. They went to VGC. They went to Ikoyi. They went to Lagos. They went to VIA. It means that they know the homes where the rich people, the children of the rich people stay. And the truth is that in a country like this, where we continue to segregate and keep the children of the poor at ground, this country is going to go up in flames one day. People are going to get to a point where they cannot take anymore. And people are going to get to a point where they cannot take anymore. When we create jobs, we cannot, within companies, we cannot decide that, for example, the children of the rich must be superior to the children of the poor. And as we continue to promote the ideas of diversity, of inclusion, of equality, we need to move forward and think about how to strengthen the economy of Nigeria by diversifying.
That is, of course, the very, very important words are being shared by the lady right there on the panel. And of course, I agree with most of what she says. They don't want you to be educated. Yes, I agree. Keith, they really want people to be living in ignorance because once you're living in ignorance, you cannot be able to agitate for better. Once you're living in poverty and you are all messed up, you will not have the time really to focus on what's going on around you. You will just have the time to focus on how to survive, how to get your next meal, or how to, you are on survival mode. But as this particular lady says, people will eventually get tired and they will not take any more of that nonsense. And that is when a change will actually come. You will overthrow the corrupt us. Yes, that is what actually should be done. But nonetheless, we shall be talking about leadership matters. I am actually very, very passionate about African leadership. And I do like to, of course, give my opinion on some few things happening across the African continent in regards to leadership. We also do have a story coming from Ivory Coast. In Ivory Coast, the old guard have refused to vacate office in Ivory Coast, and the president goes by the name Ouattara. Ouattara has now he's trying to run for a third term, and he says that the constitution allows him to go on with that. And these are some of the challenges that I'm talking about on the African continent in regards to leadership. You find that in Africa, many people want to cling onto power for as long as they can. Some other African leaders have actually died in office. But of course, Ivory Coast, Ouattara applies to run for a third term amid protest. There are growing protests in this particular country as well. Just like I said, there is also a growing protest in Mali because of the leadership and the leadership in that particular country. And of course, the president Ouattara on Monday submitted his application to run for that term after more protests by opponents who said the constitution forbids him to contest for the term in October's elections. And it was not clear what casualties the latest unrest have caused. 5 people have been killed and more than 100 wounded in clashes between protesters and the police. What you get to realize is that there is a price to be paid. There is a sacrifice. There is a price to be paid for freedom. And you cannot just talk about a revolution without casualties. There will be casualties in any revolution, and eventually there will be fruits to be seen from that. We remember Sudan; they were tired with the president who was Omar Bashir, and they decided to go in and of course bring this kind of initiative. Nonetheless, our topic for today, switching gears, our topic for today is in regard to 5Gs. And of course, if you want to know what 5G is, of course, is a fifth generation technology standard for cellular networks, which cellular cell phone companies began deploying worldwide in 2019. Last year, that is when you did have the deploying of the 5G networks. And of course, the planned successor to the 4G networks. Right now in Africa, most African nations are using the 4G networks. Some of them are still not even up to the 4G networks. You find that in some places you might go and you find that even 4G network is not attainable. They do not have that. They do not have that providing connectivity to most of the cell phones. And of course, there have been some challenges. There have been some different challenges. I mentioned one of the challenges to you in terms of rolling out the 5G network on the African continent. When you come to think of it, like I said earlier, there is a big challenge. There is a big challenge between which has to do with allegiance. Different African nations have allegiance. One of the people that are the one of people that are the one of the countries is China. There is China, whose company is called as it's known as Huawei. Huawei is a company that has been contracted by many nations to go and install the 5G network. For example, Britain. For example, also Russia had a contract with the Huawei company. But the USA has halted its plans in most places where because they believe that the Chinese might use this particular network because of for their own selfish reasons. I know the Chinese have been known to do a go on with devious plans, especially on spying. Recently, we talked about TikTok. TikTok has been a company that has been banned from the US right now because they believe that the Trump administration believes that Huawei might be used to spy on its own people. And therefore, they cannot allow for the Chinese company Huawei to continue being run by the Chinese. And they know the kind of devious plans that the Chinese already do have. I do not get it passed across the Chinese. I cannot get it past the Chinese. I cannot get it past the Chinese. We all know that the Chinese built the African Union building. The Chinese put together, or they offered to build the African Union building in Ethiopia. And when they did so, they put in bags in this building. And therefore, all the conversations that are going on in the African Union meetings will actually be in taps, and the information was going back to the Chinese. And I think the same kind of an concern that has come out even with this 5G network, and even with the TikTok. Let me just use TikTok for my illustration. People are not really, of course, are not really satisfied that there will not be any interference by the Chinese with these networks. That is one of the most important things to realize. And of course, you might also ask yourself what is a 5G network is all about. Of course, like I said, it's a fifth generation mobile network, and it's a new global wireless standard after the 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G networks. And of course, 5G enables a new kind of a network that is designed to connect virtually everyone and everything together, including machines, objects, and devices. We do have what we do call the Internet of Things, and the Internet of Things is a new concept that came out, I believe, last year, batch one. That is when we did have the Internet of Things, where you can connect your fridge, connect your sound system, connect your other devices in your house, and you can be able to control them maybe from one single device on your phone or from your internet. You can be able maybe to stop your fridge, or maybe you can be able to start your fridge, or maybe your sound system from your phone, because everything is connected to the internet. And the issue of security and privacy, the issue of security and privacy comes up. And many Africans, most of the time, Africans have been put in a place of ignorance. People do not have access to quality education, and therefore people might not even know whether there are any threats to security, whether there are any threats to anything. People might think, oh, these are new technology, this is what I need to get onto. The internet speeds are great because, of course, 5G internet speeds are wonderful, yeah? They are fast. It's faster than 2G, it's faster than 3G, it's faster than 4G. But of course, there is a question, many questions. Some of the people are actually asking themselves: is 5G network connected to the whole COVID-19 pandemic? That is one of the questions that was that actually came out in a conversation. Is 5G actually behind the COVID-19? But there was a debunking of this particular theory of the 5G network being connected to to the to, to the to the to the COVID-19. And of course, there was some protest even in Britain, I believe, regarding the issue of the health. People are asking themselves very, very much important questions as to what challenges the 5G network might present. And of course, scientists in the other different places have put together a warning. They have given a warning on the potential serious health effects of the 5G. And of course, in their appeal to the European Union, more than 180 scientists and doctors from 36 countries warned about the dangers of 5G, which will lead to a massive increase in involuntary exposure to electromagnetic radiation. And of course, asking for independent task force to reassess the health effects. And of course, they say that we, the undersigned artists, recommend a moratorium on the rollout of the 5G generation network for telecommunication until potential hazards for human health and environment have been fully investigated by scientists independent from different industries. And of course, like you say, there is a potential risk. Some people are put forward. There is a potential risk in regards to the exposure to electromagnetic waves. Anyhow, some of the initiators include scientists from the University of Örebro in Sweden. And I was supposed was saying the telecom industry is trying to roll out technology that may have real and intended harmful consequences on the people who are using these particular kinds of platforms. And of course, there have been many questions as to what the 5G network means to the health of our people. And of course, mobile phones will be 10 times faster, like I said, and of course, which is a good thing. But also look at some of the impacts of on the health of the people, because the radiation that we are being exposed to is also expected to increase to some magnitude. And of course, the Watch team, which is a part of the multi-institutional Australian Centre for Electromagnetic Bioeffects Research, is a key contributor to the International Commission of Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection review, which is expected to be released was expected to be released last year. But of course, there might be some effects, like I said, and of course, research is still being conducted to 100%. that there are not any exposure, or there are not any kind of damages that will come about with this. And of course, some of other different problems or challenges that might be witnessed with the adoption of the 5G technology on the African continent is that companies need also to upgrade, before we can see the use of the 5G, whether it's allowed to go on. But before you can see that, companies also need to upgrade. Phones need to have new chips and also have radio antennas that, of course, come at a price as well. And of course, this might also delay the rollout and also the adoption of the 5G network because of the cost as well. There are cost implications, and of course, also there is also the issue of the question on the health implications because of the exposure to the radiation, that, of course, comes along with this 5G technology. But nonetheless, I want to share some of the factors that will lead to the delay. One of the things I said is the cost factor. Another thing that is a concern about the health. And of course, there is also the issue of another thing I said earlier is the conflicting allegiances seen by African nations. Some African nations want to be allied to the Chinese. Some African nations want to be allied to the US. And the US and the Chinese do have the trade war. And this particular trade war have, of course, maybe perhaps stalled some countries from assessing the eligibility of, or the eligibility, really, not really the eligibility, but the prospects of really getting to have on board the 5G network in their own countries. And nonetheless, we do hope to see that even African innovators are also included in these particular kinds of research. Research in innovation has not been funded well in many African countries, and therefore many people are still lagging behind because they're still waiting on other different European countries to do the research for them, and then they can go ahead and adopt the research. I do want to put this particular kind of a challenge, especially to South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya. These are some of the countries that do have a potential for research and innovation in their own states, in their own countries, but you have not seen the full support of the government in terms of funding research in areas such as the telecommunications or areas such as maybe even space. It's even a shame to see that most African countries that have launched, what do you call them, satellites, most of these countries have done it with the help of the Japanese or the help of the Chinese. We do not have proper funding towards research and innovation, and that is why we just, most of the time, we wait on the reports given. You might hear the friends give a report on electromagnetism and the exposure to radiation by the 5G, and then people will just take it as it is. I do want to tell there's I do want to challenge African governments, the African people, really to put an effort towards funding innovation and research projects to make sure that our people are also at the forefront, are also spearheading innovation projects, and to make sure that we are getting in the right direction. Once again, we are coming to the end of the show. I want to thank everyone so much. Bombi Dampa, thank you so much. Keith Newsome, thank you so much for giving us this particular platform. And of course, everyone else that is watching us on Facebook, we do love and appreciate you being part of the Blackwood Fire Network. And of course, like I said, remember you can hit me up on our social media platforms. We are Blackwood Fire Network Radio Station on Facebook. We are also Blackwood Fire on Instagram and also Blackwood Fire on Twitter. We would really love to hear from you. You can join us on the subsequent shows. We do have the Express show coming up. We also do have the Voices of the Motherland. And we also do have the Africa Today show. Make sure not to catch that dial. Make sure not to miss out on these wonderful and amazing shows. We have a lot of news and updates lined up for you. And like we said, if you would like to support the network, simply head over to the website, or you can also use Cash App, Mr. Blackwood Fire, or you can also use the network website to share or support the network with your donations. If you would like to use donate with $5, $10, $15, whatever amount that you feel comfortable with, you are much welcome to do so. Once again, much peace and love. Till next time, I do send for hearing.
when I'm leaving, I never stop, never let you go. Oh, yes, I'm your Sunday, I'm your Sunday. How do you call me?